First, welcome to this MCAEL event where we're going to be talking about data and what our data tells us about adult English language learning in Montgomery County. My name is Rudy Jung. I'm Director of Programs at MCAEL. And my co-presenter today will be Danny Keeley, who is MCAEL's Technology Coordinator and Data Specialist. We're joined today by a number of my colleagues on the MCAEL staff. Maybe all of you could raise your hands. We have Kathy Stevens, Tiffany Ross, Emma Starr. I know Tom Calling is here, and I believe Kay Savoy and Grace Karambiri, as almost all of us are here. And I particularly like to recognize 4 of our board members, I believe, signed up for this. And if you wouldn't mind raising your hands as well, Joan Schaefer is here, Stacy Parkinson, Gloria Hawes, and Ann Miller. And please let me know if I forgot anybody on our board. And welcome also to Kieran McCabe on the staff of Council Vice President Kate Stewart. We're pleased to have you here today as well.
Rudy, I just wanted... Rudy, may I just interrupt to welcome Olivia? Olivia, I forget how to say your last name. Sue from the Greater Washington Community Foundation. Nice to see you. Thank you.
And of course, all of you, especially I know that many of our coalition members, both instructors and program managers, are here as well, and other friends of MCAEL. So we'll get started here. We're very excited to present 2 of the resources that we have available on our website. And some of you are probably familiar with our story map, which is our annual presentation of MCAEL data. It tells us a lot about adult ESOL learners in the county. But today we're also going to be introducing MCAEL's equity focus areas. And that's something we're very excited about as we embark upon or implement a new strategic plan. Both of these are available, both of these are available on our website. So first of all, just to talk about the objectives today, we're hoping that people will come away with a greater understanding of how the story map can be used to understand who in Montgomery County can benefit most from English classes, where our English programs have effectively met the need for English instruction in the year 2022. Sorry, this is on a timer. Let me just stop that. Who in the county, I'm sorry, I lost my place, where adult ESOL programs most effectively met the need last year, and some of the trends regarding enrollment, the types of classes, including online and in-person, and class levels. And we're also going to take a look at what the gaps are in ESOL services. And secondly, how the MCAEL Equity Focus Areas mapping tool can be used to target programming. So we're first going to delve into the story map. And just to give you a little bit of background on this, this is a presentation that we've been doing for about 5 or 6 years. It dates back to the time where we did a needs assessment in the county. We really wanted to know who was actually taking classes. And so we were able to work with County Stat at that time to develop, I'm sorry, this keeps jumping ahead, to develop a story map, which is a presentation that's interactive. So this includes data from the MCAEL Coalition, including the programs that are funded by MCAEL and Montgomery College, as well as Gilchrist Immigrant Resource Center. And we're really delighted that the last couple of years, starting last year, we developed this in-house. Previously, we worked with County Stat and then secondly with Montgomery Planning, which were great partnerships, but we now have our in-house data specialist, Danny, and we've been able to take this in-house, which means that we can better customize it for the use of our coalition and community. So the basic thing to understand about the story map is that it overlays MCAEL learner and class data on top of data that we have from the US Census Bureau. And the data from the US Census Bureau is basically the data from the American Community Survey, because it's the American Community Survey that asks questions about whether you speak another language in the home besides English, and then how well you speak English. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn this over to Danny, who is going to lead us through the beginning of the story map. Thank you. Oh, and before, sorry, Danny, if anybody has any questions at any time, please feel free to put them in the chat. We'll stop periodically for live questions as well. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to share my screen here, and then we can go directly to the story map. So when you open, let me get my second screen here. So when you open the story map, you are going to see this screen here is the header, as we had last year as well. And the first map that you are going to see here, it's a map that shows the population that they say that they speak English less than very well. So when the ACS, the American Community Survey, survey them, they say, they report that they speak English less than very well. So on this map here, the darkest the areas, the more the percentage of those adults that say that they speak English less than very well are concentrated on those areas. So you can see here, for example, the map is divided by census tracts. So this is what the Census Bureau does. It's for having like a space where they can really count the population. So you can see some places that are the census tract is really large. It's because probably it has less people, less population there, and smaller ones where they can control that count. So if you get this one here, for example, 22% of the 2,834 adult population, they report they speak English less than very well. So this is similar last year. Last year we had two maps. The first one was this one, and the next one is another layer. You want to? Oh, sorry. The next layer that you can see here. So in the same map, you can see another layer that is the other languages spoken for those that reported. I'm sorry, it's not for those that reported English less than well. This is for people 5 years and older. So the interesting part of this map here, this layer in the same map, you can see where the population are that speak different languages, so other than English. So it's not that they don't speak English. So this is a general idea of how many people speak other languages other than English. Good things that you can see on different maps that we are seeing here today on the story map, you can go back on the years. So this will always show the latest data, but you can go back here and see how it was before. And this is one map that it's really interesting to see how things changed, how the languages change around the county. So here, 2020, we had this big area, for example, speaking Korean as the second language, not the second language, but the most spoken language other than English. And then if you see now, the language is Spanish. The other thing with all the maps that you have here, you have the text explaining. So this is an idea of the story map. But if you want to see this map outside of this tab, you can just click here. So all the maps and charts that you see here will have these. So you can just click here and go to another tab. So this will make easier to see the data that you are looking here. And also you can see without going to another tab from the bottom right here. Okay, so the next map, if you keep scrolling, you see now how MCAEL learners, the coalition learners, are in this map in the county. So this map is a bit different because it's not by tract. Since we don't collect learners' address, we couldn't really know exactly where they are, where they are located. So we collect zip codes. So census, they have as well the data by zip codes. You can see that it's more spread, the zip codes. So it's not as easy to control. That's why census use census tract. But for that matter, we can use the zip codes, and then you can see the darkest areas, the more we served that population. So for example, Montgomery Village here, from the 7,065 learners that reported that they speak English less than very well, we served 603 last fiscal year. So this is 80%. So the darker, the better for what we do as teaching English. And also you can see here some symbols. The stars are the MCAEL funded programs, the grants that we fund, and the crosses are the other organizations such as Montgomery College and Gilchrist. So if you keep scrolling one more time, and then I'll pause for questions after this one here. This one is also from census data, and they break the language, they break the data by languages. So the languages that people speak other than English, they divide it in four different categories. So here we have Spanish, other Indo-European, and then you have like a guide here to see what are those other languages. For example, Indo-European would be French, Russian, Greek, Hindi, Urdu, and Dari. And Asian and Pacific island languages and all other languages. The interesting thing with this map here, this chart here, you can see that we are serving more here, but you need to understand what is happening behind the chart, because if you see, for example, for all other languages, seems like we are not doing good. But the thing is, we are, for example, if I get all other languages here, we served 666 on the 2022, and we served 707. So we served more, but because the need it's higher as well, so the percentage went a little bit down here. So Spanish is a good case because even with the need going up, we also served more. So it's interesting to see that tendency. And by the end of the story map, you have an appendix, and this is one of the charts that you can see on an appendix as well with more details. So yeah, before we move to the next one, Rudy, do you have anything to say before we ask for questions?
No, I don't think so. Maybe we should just open it up for questions.
Okay. Yeah, if you have questions, you can put it in the chat or just raise your hand.
So I can read one from here. Some households have members who speak multiple languages. Did the census collect this data?
So yes, what they do, they report as the first most spoken language at home. So even if they speak more than one, the first one that the person report as the main that they use would be the one that is used here.
This is Kathy. I might just point out something, it's always tricky when you look at percentages and then the numbers. And if we're saying, oh, we serve 600 out of 7,000, I mean, that is the important point, right? We say that we serve about 10% of the population in need in the county. And so I'm always looking at the big picture, I guess. So that is, kind of one of the big points. We continue to see progress for the work that all of the coalition members are doing, and yet the numbers increase. So sometimes we see that it looks like our percent goes down, but we're really just kind of treading water to some extent, is one way to put it. So I just think it's just to pull back a little bit to the 30,000 foot point view, this data is so helpful to everyone on this call, but that's the big picture that I would just kind of emphasize for everyone as well. And others may have different points of view on all of that too. That's why it's great to have these conversations about data. Thanks, Danny.
Yep. Any other questions? So, Rudy.
Okay, so one of the other things that we are really interested in seeing when we look at the year past is where the learners reside. And this gives us an indication of access, right? So looking at this chart, it's broken down into the 5 counties the 5 regions of Montgomery County. With Up County on the bottom there, the green, you can see that over the last 5 years, it's steadily increased in terms of the percentage of learners from that particular region. There's been a steady increase in classes in Gaithersburg and Germantown. And so, but the other thing that we are always interested to see is where there's more need, and unfortunately Eastern County or East County has for any number of reasons it's been harder for learners to access classes there. So this is something that we are focusing on actually with our programs, and I'll speak about it a little bit later with our community learning groups. But you can see the trends there over the last 5 years for the different regions. Okay, and then there's a lot of other information in here, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but it does break down learners by gender. And over the last several years, it's been almost 75% women. The majority of our adult learners are between the ages of 18 and 60, with a concentration right there, the gold, between 25 and 44. And then our top countries of origin, we include the top 10 here. You'll see a number of Spanish-speaking countries at the top there, but also China, Ethiopia, Cameroon, and Vietnam, which are non-Spanish speaking. And we also track the diversity of languages spoken by learners. So I welcome you to come back and explore some of that information. So moving on, we also are at this point looking specifically at grant program data. So in fiscal year 23, MCAEL provided $1.345 million in grants to 23 organizations for 31 programs. They are all listed here, and a number of them are attending this meeting. And I wanted to give a big shout out, a big thank you again for all of the data that you provide to us, because we wouldn't be able to do this analysis without it. If you could go ahead and scroll down, Danny. We also an important data points for us is enrollment in MCAEL funded programs. And this is a comparing the last 5 years. And you can see that in 2022-23, we hit a new high actually. So let me explain a little bit. There are 2 numbers that are showing on this chart. One is total enrollment, which is the 10,000 number. And that means the number of class seats filled over the year. And it can include duplicates. So in other words, if there's a student who came in the fall for a program and they enrolled again in the spring, they're counted twice. And so that number is an amazing number. It means that we had a lot of learners who persisted in the year. And then the 6,000 number is the number of unique learners. So unique individuals that enrolled in classes. And so the interesting thing about this chart also is you can see where it really dipped down for the pandemic years, 2021. It really went down, but you can see with last year, we've caught up and exceeded where we were before. So that's the good news. There's also a map here talking about number of learners served by in-person classes, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that right now. I'll let you all explore that on your own. The next map is something, though, I do want to spend a little bit of time on, because one of the things that our coalition as a whole is focusing on a lot since the pandemic is how classes are delivered. So obviously, previous to the pandemic, most all classes basically were offered in person, and the pandemic forced all of our programs to go online. And most programs did that. Yeah, and it was wonderful to see that the pivot to online classes. But what we're discovering since in these last couple of years is that online classes are here to stay. They're not going away. So that what we discovered during the pandemic is that instruction can be effectively offered online. And certainly the convenience of online classes is really high for learners who may not be able to get to classes because of transportation or lack of childcare. And so we're very interested in understanding, the proportion of hybrid versus, online versus in-person classes. And one of the things that we had noticed, or our programs in the coalition had noticed, is a drop-off during the pandemic of beginner level learners, because it is just harder for them to attend online classes, whether it was access to technology or Wi-Fi, and just learning English at the basic level is much better done in person. So that's why we've been keeping close track of this. This chart shows you a bit about it. So starting on the left side, you'll see it's broken down by level, and there are basically six levels of classes, beginning with beginning literacy, which is your basic, low beginning, high beginning, etc. And this chart compares 2022, the year before, FY 2022, with last year, FY 2023. And we were really heartened to see, first of all, there's a big increase in classes last year, number of classes. And you can see that the biggest increases were at the beginning literacy level and low beginning. And so the part on the right shows how these are broken down. So the red classes are in person and the blues are online. So Danny, maybe you can help me explain this side of it. I know that we're looking at a greater percentage of in-person classes
Yes. So
in 2023.
so when we did this the year before last year, so 2022, we already saw here that beginners literacy and low beginning classes, they were the majority of the online classes that we had. So you can clearly see here 60% of the 58 classes were online and 40% were in person. And now even we're seeing here, this is something we were discussing before this meeting today. And when we got this data, here we have a little bit less. If you see here 10%, but you had 111 classes, so you had the more than, or the double of class, almost the double of classes. So even if this percentage went a little bit down, we still have a lot of classes that are online. And also we started having many hybrid classes. So if you think a hybrid class, it's half and a half. So this, if we split a little bit here, so this number can be a little bit up as well. Another interesting thing here is some of the categories here are growing in in-person classes. So for example, high beginning here the year before we had 23%, and now we had more. And in this case, this was the only case that the number of classes went down. So this means that we had many more classes that were in person comparing to the last year.
So I might make a note that hybrid classes are usually those that are synchronous. So you have students who are attending at the same time. Some of them are in person in a classroom, and some of them are at home online. And the teacher could either be in the classroom or online. So we're really focusing on this mode of delivery since it offers a lot to students, and it's a cost-effective way for programs to be able to meet different learners' needs. I think that maybe we'll break for questions here.
Yeah, one more thing quickly that I want you to point here. This view here, it's by classes, so the percentages are over the number of classes. The other thing that you can do is seeing by learners. So it doesn't change that much, but the percentages will be over the learners, just so you know what are the differences of the views here. So yeah, if you have any questions.
Okay, there are several in the chat actually. From Anna, do you have a sense of the population growth of immigrant communities in the county? The percentage of people who've improved their English skills and no longer need classes, and the percentage of learners who would like to study but couldn't get into a class? Yes, they are tough questions. We do have a sense of the population growth of the immigrant communities in the county from census data. But in terms of those who have improved their English skills and no longer need classes, we have a sense of it. But yeah, I don't know if anybody else would like to chime in on of my colleagues about that.
I will. This is Kathy Stevens. This is one of the important questions that we wrestle with, right? What is the impact over time for not only for the programs and the individuals who are taking English, but how are we doing long term? And Anna, you've hit a great question that we certainly have anecdotal information on from programs themselves when they know that they have tracked a student through a couple years and that person's doing better, got a different job. But it would be a fascinating research study to get some funding to look at some impact. As you know, Anna and others know too, this transient populations, it's hard to track people, they're changing jobs, all of that, but I think it would be a fascinating study for us to do.
Yes, I agree. And another question here is, have we tested asynchronous classes? And I don't know of any actually. So that's a really interesting question.
Yeah, I just brought that one up because recently a lot of our students have been asking to record our online classes so that they can review them or study later. And my assumption is probably also share them. So just food for thought.
That's a great, it's something to look into and gather some information on, right? Thanks, Kevin. Rudy, I see a bunch of questions about computers and everything, and maybe you just want to say what we've done in the past year or two.
Sure. Well, MCAEL has worked closely with Montgomery Connects, which is a program of the Office of, sorry, I'm blanking on the name, the Office of Broadband, I guess.
Broadband Office, yep.
Of the county, and they have had a number of programs where computers are distributed to people, residents in the county, and we've had a couple of distribution events in the last year. And I know that Montgomery Connects is still having free computers available. So that's something to check out. And I think Anna has actually put in a link there about that. So Sandra, to Sandra's question there, I would Google Montgomery Connects, and there's information there on how your students can register for a free computer. Okay, I think we'll move on now to outcomes. So our story map includes not only information, the previous information was a lot about outputs, the number of students, of classes, and analyzing levels and everything, but we also need to pay attention about the impact of our work. And so every year we measure outcomes in two ways. The first is, what are the gains of the learners? And so just to say a little bit before Danny goes into the data, a number of years ago, we pulled together a work group of ESOL program managers, and we developed a rubric or a list of goals and objectives, because we needed to figure out, how do you measure a learner's progress when, I guess, we always think that it takes a number of years, 6 or 7 years, to actually become proficient. But can you actually, how can you measure a learner's progress just in the course of a session? And so this group of providers got together and developed I'm sorry, I'm losing my words here, but a way to measure a number of objectives along different goal areas. Yes. So Danny.
So yeah, so here we have the results of this last year. So what they are assessed before, and they are asked different, like Rudy said, different goals and objectives. They identify the ones that they want to report, or they want to improve, not report, they want to improve. And then we measured if they progressed on, they measured, or the learner, the instructors give us if they progressed or not. So here you have like the higher level of seeing the goals. So you can see the percentage of each individual, not individual, sorry, each goal, but doesn't mean that each learner can only pick one. They can pick more than one goal. They can try to improve in this the ability to use English daily in daily living situations and in community connectedness. So they can do both. So here we are not seeing the same number. For example, the 10,000 learners that we saw before can be more because they can pick more than one, but still we are seeing the progress that they are doing in each category. The other interesting thing with this chart here, it's not only looking at the numbers and saying, oh, goal 5 is the better one or the most that they improved. In percentage, it is, you can see here, but if you look at the numbers, the number of learners that are identified and reported on the goals inside of this category was much higher than this that is higher. So both are they are all kind of the same, but here we have many more students reporting or learners reporting on this goal. So this is important to know that this chart is not only looking at it, but you need to like understand what is happening behind it. And then the next one, it's breaking the same goals that we saw there, but breaking into objectives. So the same numbers that you see there, if you sum up all of these numbers here, you have the number that is there. And then the interesting thing here, you can see, for example, this goal here, almost 100% of them, and it's an important one that they can read child's report card. So almost 100% of the learners that said that they want to improve in this area, they improved during the session that they took. So I think you can explore more here, and if you have any questions today or later, you can just send to us. But it's a really interesting way to see, and thank you for all our coalition of our grant partners that send those data, so we can analyze and get you this chart. And the next one, so this one we are talking about learners. So how the learners want to progress, and how we show the measure, how we measure and show how they progressed. And now here it's a bit different, because this is how the programs want to improve. So the same way that we measure how the learners improved, here we ask the programs to identify areas that they want to improve during the year, and they have a scale 0 to 3 that they can say that where they are now. So they can say, I'm comfortable, but I want to improve, so I'm number 1. And then at the end they say, oh, I'm 3 now, I'm really solid on this. And then we get all of this information put on this chart. So this first chart is just showing what are the areas that they identified. So it doesn't mean that 7 here is the number of programs that identified this standard. So this is based on TESOL standards. So we have, I think, 8, I'm not mistaken, 9.
There are 9 standards overall.
Sorry. And then we can see here instruction and curriculum and instructional materials were the 2 top ones here that the programs chose. And again, they can choose 3. So they can choose 1, 2, or 3. Some of them they choose 2, some of them they choose 3. So this, if you sum here, also we won't give you the total number of programs, because can be more or less. In the next chart, you can break down and see how much they really improved. From that 7 that we saw there that chose instruction, we have 5 that they say they improved by 1. So it can be from 2 to 3, can be from 1 to 2. And we have 2 programs that they said that they wanted to improve on instruction, and they improved by 2. So they were from 1 to 3 or 0 to 2. So this is a really good measure that we can see here on this chart. And some of them we see here that they tried to improve, they wanted to improve, but at the end they reported that they remained the same. So this is another way that we can see here, and then we can try to improve our trainings, our workshops, so we can give them what they need to improve on this area.
And just to say a few words, so those are the main highlights that we wanted to talk about from our story map, and of course we welcome you to explore this further on our website. But we did want to mention that you know, while this mapping and everything shows where the areas that we're doing well at covering or providing classes, that it also shows who might be left out. And these include beginner literacy and low beginning learners. Now we're starting to really focus in on them last year, and I think this year also there are going to be more in-person classes and more at those levels. So that's great. We continue to learners continue to face barriers on the technology side, lack of digital literacy skills, and as I mentioned before, access to Wi-Fi or lack of an appropriate device. And this is something that MCAEL is continuing to work on also. And we will continue to partner with Montgomery Connects, as I mentioned. Learners in certain parts of the county, especially Eastern Montgomery. Our community learning groups program, which we piloted in 2021, is focusing specifically on East County now to work with organizations, community-based organizations and faith-based organizations in East County to reach learners, give them a 9-week starter class, and help them get on a pathway to learning English. And as well as to train teachers. This program, and the other goal of this program is to train teachers in those areas, because of course you can't have a class without an instructor. So then of course there's speakers of some languages that are not accessing classes either. So I just gave a quick overview of the community learning groups. We have a map here also that might be of interest. So you can see where the MCAEL funded programs are the blue stars, and the red diamonds are the places where we've held community learning groups classes in, and including in East County there. We are continuing to work with if you could hold on the Islamic and the ISWA. Thank you, Danny. Well, we've been working with the Islamic Society of the Washington area, and this is a particular success story, we feel, because we started partnering with them and offered classes on the day of their services, actually on Friday, for women in that community. And they are currently running their own classes, and they applied recently for a startup grant from us. And so and now this is a new site there that will be offering classes. We also have been partnering with schools. And so the other red dot right next to there is Greencastle Elementary School, where we are currently having a community learning group with parents of students at that school. So in the appendix of this story map, you'll find much more information, which we don't have time to go over right now. But we did want to, while we have a few minutes, talk about the equity focus areas. And the segue into that is that our community learning groups is a very important part of our racial equity strategic plan, or part of our new strategic plan now. And we are thinking about, our goal is to increase the number of people who have access to English classes, but instead of, wanting to increase the number of learners, just, to increase the number of learners, we also want to make sure that that we are focusing on the areas that are where the improving English skills means the most. And so we were really very intrigued when we heard about Montgomery Planning's equity focus areas. And I'm just going to give a little introduction here let me share my screen again. Okay. So the equity focus areas is based on there we go. Based on Montgomery Planning's methodology. And they first did this in 2019, I believe, or 2021 with 2019 census data. But their methodology was really to make use of three measures. One is where the people of color live in Montgomery County, looking at income, I'm sorry. There we go. Looking at income level and also English proficiency. And so Danny has helped us adapt this map for MCAEL's use, and looking specifically at adults 18 and over, and also including several years of data. So including the most latest, which is for English proficiency, which is 2022 data. So I'm going to stop sharing here and Danny can show the map.
So the link is also on the Impact website. So if you go to MCAEL Impact, and you can see here the story map that we were talking about, and now the equity focus areas here. So when you open first time, you're gonna see this map here. The first thing that is good to know are what are the colors. So the darkest area, the more the need in the three areas that we talked now. So low income, not the need, sorry, it's the concentration of those three indexes are higher. So the low income, the people of color, and English proficiency with English less than very well, when they report that they have English less than very well. So on that first map, on the story map, we just saw the people that report that they speak English less than very well, but here we have two more indexes that Montgomery Planning studied and thought was interesting to put together and call those areas as equity focus areas. So if you see that their project, when they did in 2021, they did for the year of 2019. So here what we did was just updating, so you have the same idea of with a slider here that you can have any year, so you can go back up to until 2015. So this is a good thing that's a different thing that you can manipulate, or not manipulate, is manipulate the dates, not the data. And it's, as we said here, we have 3 indexes playing on the colors and then where the areas are. But the thing that you can have here on this map as well is only seeing each layer at a time. So if you want to see the income, you can click here on the income, and then we'll show you with the same colors, now with the same idea of having the color darker where the areas are, where the population are concentrated. So if you see the English one here, will be similar the one that we have at the top of the story map. One thing that is not really good here with the map is when you click to change the filters. Since we have a lot of data behind it, it takes up 2 or 3 seconds to change. It's not instant. So just be aware of this. Other interesting things that you can see here, since we work with adults, so now you are seeing, and every time you come to the map will be filtered by adults, but you can go back to the idea of showing everything. So how the Montgomery Planning did the map, the idea of and then you can see that some areas just disappear when you change, because we have a lot of people under 18 years old that speak better English, so or are probably English, because the other 2 indexes won't change that much. So this is really interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. So whenever we receive a request, or we talk with a potential partner, we always keep this mapping in mind, and we see where it fits within, is it an equity focus area, and it enables us to decide whether to work in that area, or what level assistance we might provide.
Pardon me, Danny and Rudy, may I just kind of underscore that point if you have just a minute? This is Kathy again. It's not very often with county data that we can find things that are disaggregated in these ways, and overlaying the income, whether someone's a person of color or not, and what their English skills are. It really pulls together so many of the indicators that we think are important in this work, and that can be used by many other folks looking at unemployment rates, looking at all of these other things that are really important for why people want to learn English. Maybe there's some coordination with health outcomes in these areas. Maybe there's some coordination with unemployment rates, but we think it's really important, and a very strong tool that Danny has created there and just really enhanced for our use with the layering of the English capability. So we are using this, and we certainly encourage others to use it as well.
And perhaps we might mention that Montgomery Planning has, if you're interested in other indices, Montgomery Planning also has a more recent community equity index. I believe that's yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you have the link here that you can see all the plannings that they are it's a project. This was part of the project, so they move on to another idea that they have other indexes, and we are working on like understanding better as well, and creating adding more ideas to this map as well. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning, so this map and any other maps and charts that we saw on the story map, you can download them. So the what you are seeing right now, when you click this here, download, you download exactly this as a screenshot of what you are seeing here. And you can download as a PDF or an image. So if you zoom, for example, in the East County area, and you move here, then you can just download that part. And you can also, on this map, you can hide the controls to make a better view. Any question about the equity focus areas? So yeah, I'll put
there are some questions in the chat that we can go back to. From another Anna, is there data for people that can't read and write in their native language? Do you know about that, Danny?
So from the ACS, from the American Community Survey, they have the literacy in their, they don't mention in each language, they say just literacy. So I can try to check on that and see if they have something else, but I don't believe, I believe they don't have it. They don't, for the American
I have not.
Survey.
Yeah, I have not heard of a data source for this either. But we know that more and more of our programs have learners who have limited literacy in their native language. In fact, we're developing a course right now for teaching learners who have limited literacy. The question from Marie Yolaine, I think we answered in terms of how we measure learner progress. Well, each I can say a little bit more about this. Each program actually is able to determine how they want to measure the objectives. But obviously, not all classes cover each of those objectives. They just select the ones that are most relevant to their program. And it can be up by pre and post test, or it could be by unit tests. Yeah. Do you track by student who moves up into more advanced classes and who stays in beginner classes over time? I'm sure that individual programs do that, but MCAEL does not collect that information. I don't know if any of our programs here want to respond to that.
Yeah, that'd be great if we could hear from anyone who does, even anecdotally. It's interesting to think about.
Well, the way we do that is like we have a pre and post test, and we have quizzes. And after that, teachers recommend a student go to the next level or not. And that's the way we know we had students, and we had the data. We haven't just check it, study that data. The students that come like 2 or 3 years ago, now they start in beginning and now they are in advance. So we know students are progressing. Now that will depend how many times they come to classes or how many sessions come to classes, because some the students come and after they leave before they finish, and after the next semester they come again. And it's all because work or whatever the issues they have. But I think the way we do it is that way, is that we have quizzes, and we have a pre and post test, and after that teachers recommend that a student is going to go to the next level, and we follow objectives. So yeah.
And I think part of it is that, and for those of folks who don't know, that was Cecilia Rojas, who's a longtime program manager at Community Reach, and this is Kathy again. I think, some folks come to class just to get their bearings, and they stay for a session or two, and they've gotten what they need to out of that meets their goals, whether it's conversation in the neighborhood, getting a job, that kind of thing. So there's all kinds of different ways to measure success and progress. But it is, as Cecilia says, there are some ways the program's looked at particular students over time, but it's not something that we've been able to easily collect and analyze. It's just another big data burden on our programs.
Kathy, I was just going to add, this is Anna, and from my experience when I was managing the program at the Gilchrist Immigrant Resource Center, we often saw a lot of the lower level, basic level 1 students repeating many times because they, had a lot of education gaps and things like that. But we would also see level 3 and level 4 students repeat a lot because they had no other place to go.
Yeah.
And they wanted to keep learning and practicing, but they couldn't afford to go pay for another program.
It's a great point. Thank you, Anna.
Any other questions we can address in our last couple of minutes?
I just had one question. Are all the programs using the same set of books, the National Geographic Standout Series?
No. Every program, well, I'm sure that some are using the same, but there's a big variety in the books that programs use.
Okay, so the advancement through the levels isn't standardized for MCAEL.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry.
The advancement through the levels is not standardized.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think to some extent, I mean, the classes do try to align around the NRS levels, Kevin, but it's been quite intentional from the coalition from the start to allow different programs to use the curriculums that suit them best. The flip side of that is, to your question, if we had that consistent, it'd be measuring a different thing, but then I think we'd lose the ability of programs to really figure out what curriculum suits their needs. But it's a good question. Thank you.
Thanks.
How can we get a copy of all the slides that were presented?
I'm happy to send out the slides, but there were only a few slides. Most of this is live online. So both of these tools that were presented, the links have been put in the chat. And we can go ahead and email them out after this presentation as well.
Oh, you'll email them to everybody. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the link to our website where you can find all of these images that we put up. They were live images. It's a link to a live story map on our website.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we've gotten to 5:30. Thank you so much, all of you, for attending our session today. And I hope that you'll feel welcome to send us any feedback you have on the resources that you find online. And have a great afternoon. I hope this has been helpful.